267-22-JIGGY.
Daddy Fun.
Hey, Jiggy, what's happening, man? Reminds me of that David Bowie song. Jiggy play guitar. It's a great name, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Presenting
I'm Mike Massey, and you can catch me on Jiggy Jag TV and see a few of my trick shots there. Thank you very much.
Jiggy Jaguar.
I never knew what freedom was until I saw you lose yours.
Okay, we are live, coast to coast, border to border on iHeartRadio today, also AM, FM, 247.com. Tune in, iTunes, and of course, Radio Loyalty. I am going to say that till the day I die. That is just going to be the way things are going to be. So, we are going to go to our guest. Well, we're going to go to IQ Hours Only, then we'll go to our guest. But, IQ, how are you, sir?
I am fantastic now that you're on.
I've got to get our guest in here, and then I got to call Don on his cell phone because he is traveling today.
Oh.
But apparently, Don is off the beach, as they say. He's been down there in St. Petersburg, I believe, something like that, for the last several months. So it's always interesting. Cathy, can you hear us, my friend?
I can hear you. I don't see you.
No. We're doing Skype to phone, so we just we're just calling you on your phone.
Okay.
I am going to get a hold of our other phone guest. We're doing audio today, it seems.
Okay.
We are going to get a hold of Don Mazzella, who is going to be with us here in just a few seconds. And
Okay.
we will get him on. He is traveling today, so he is off the beach, as they say. And he is in the process of back to traveling again. But hopefully we get Don to pick up here in just a few seconds, and then we will get to our guests. And we have got IQ Al Rizzoli joining us as well here on our program. And Don, can you hear us, my friend?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You sound excellent. We have got our guest with us today. Cathy Rex is with us. She's the author of The Bone Code, and she's with us today here on our big broadcast. It's the 20th novel in the best-selling Temperance Brennan series. And Cathy, you are amazing. You published the Deja Dead in 1997. You won the Ellis Award for the best first novel and was an international bestseller. The Bone Code is your 20th entry in this series, featuring a forensic anthropologist. And Cathy was also a producer of Fox Television's longest-running scripted drama, Bones. It's also based on her work and her novels. And she joins us today here on the telephone. Cathy, welcome to the broadcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So this book is your 20th book. What have you learned doing 20 books as an author?
I can't believe it's 20. That just astounds me still. Oh, what have I learned? Gosh, I've learned a lot more about my characters, and I've learned, I think, hopefully I've honed my writing style a bit over the past 20 books.
Fantastic.
Well, I can attest, as a fan, I can attest to that. First off, I want to congratulate you. I'm a big fan of your book and of your series. And what I think you've done is create some really strong woman characters, not only the title character, but the other characters in your book. And for that, thank you.
Well, thank you. And what Emily Deschanel did with that character was brilliant. She was different. You know, the TV character was different from the book character a little bit, although the core premise was the same. You have a woman who's very smart, very passionate about her work, who's a forensic anthropologist, who works for medical examiners, helping identify unidentifiable human remains and, figuring out cause or manner of death. But, on the TV series, she's a little younger. She's a little more socially awkward. At first people would say, why are they different? And then as they got to love the TV version of the character, they were fine with it. I think they thought of it as a prequel to the book character.
Well, frankly, I thought the books were better than the series in that sense.
Well, thank you. My daughter is currently walking around. We're at our beach house, and she's currently walking around with a T-shirt that says the book was better than the series.
Well, I think she was right. If I may, because I think when you open a book, you want to learn something from the book, not only pass time. And I think you did a lot more of that than the series ever did. I love the series, don't get me wrong. We never missed it. But I thought your books were much better.
Well, thank you. And that's what I try to do. The bottom line is I want to write a good old-fashioned murder mystery. The difference is that the solution is driven by science. And in each book, I try to bring in a different form of forensic science, whether it's, mitochondrial DNA or it's, blood spatter pattern analysis or forensic linguistics, so that the reader can feel like they've learned something. And I keep it accurate, although I keep it brief and I keep it jargon-free, because, readers don't want to read a textbook, but they do like to learn something, as you say.
Yes, and that's what impelled me to the books, and frankly keeps me buying them. Is how are you going to do it the next time around? As a writer, I'm fascinated by that, and I think you do a heck of a job of doing that. And again, thank you.
No, thank you. You have to do something new. You have your core principles and your core actors, but you have to do something new in every book. Otherwise, it just gets formulaic. So, and thriller readers like to be surprised. I think they try to figure it out, but at least I am disappointed if I do manage to figure it out. I like to have that twist at the end where you say, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." So I think that's part of the fun of reading murder mysteries, thrillers.
Well, I'm going to ask you a far-out question because it came out in our writers' group recently. What do you have you ever thought about killing off your character, and what prevents you from doing besides the money?
Cutting her off?
Yeah, like knocking them off, killing off a character.
Oh my!
Yes,
I have killed off characters in earlier books. Skinny Slidell's partner was killed, I believe, or whose partner got killed? Yeah, Eddie Rinaldi got killed, and then I killed off a cop in Montreal also, I think. If I kill off the main character, that's it. The series is over with. So unless you then come back and say it was just a dream sequence or something, but that's such a cliche that I certainly won't kill off Temperance Brennan. Anybody else, I suppose, is fair game.
Well, do you think you could, well, I guess it was brought up in the context of writing the same character, in your case, this long. Do you ever get tired about it?
I haven't gotten tired of her yet. Because I keep her evolving and changing, and the social relationships evolving, and the people around her with whom she interacts, and every case she works on. And this is one of the things I really liked about working in a forensic lab is every day when you went in, you didn't know what you were going to have, what case you'd be facing. So I like to keep that changing as well. One of the things you do have to address as a continuing character series writer is what do you do about time? What do you do about aging your characters? Some authors have age their characters in real time. Others just ignore it and keep them kind of fixed at a certain age. I've kind of compromised between the two. I certainly haven't aged her in real time. The only one that's aging, I think, is the cat. I think the cat's about 50 now.
It is power. Can we ask a question? You've written this, but have you considered starting a new series?
Not really. I wrote a series, a young adult series with my son, Brendan. We wrote 6 books featuring Temperance Brennan's 14-year-old great niece, Tori Brennan. And that was a lot of fun, both creating a whole new character and a whole new world, as we used to call it in the writer's room, and also working with my son was a lot of fun. Not every single moment of it, but in general. He's a lawyer, so if he wants to argue a point, he can be quite persuasive. But so I did that. I've also written several short stories. I just wrote one called Owl. It's going to appear in the International Thriller Writers don't charge any dues to members. The way we make money for the organization is to every now and then do an anthology, and the writers all contribute without pay. So this anthology is going to be coming up, I think, next fall, late fall. It's called Birds of Prey, and each writer had to choose a bird of prey to feature in their story. It could be, well, my story is called Owl. That's all I'm going to tell you. Somebody used like a Ford Falcon as their bird of prey, so it'll be a fun collection.
I, for one, will go out and get it. Now that the series is over on television, have you ever considered like a reunion story? To me, the series never really ended the way I would have liked.
Okay. We've talked about it, but David is doing another show now. Everyone's doing other shows now. He's on SEAL Team, and Emily's doing, what's she on? And Tamara is on one of those crime, lawyer, organized crime, I think. Anyway, so everyone else is working. They're busy, but it's possible. Who knows? I'll never say never. I think it would be a lot of people that would like to see that, and I would certainly enjoy doing it.
Yes. Without you, I don't think they could do it. I'm sorry, I didn't realize Emily was working on something because I haven't seen her or anything.
She's been in, I always go blank, but she's in her second or third production since Bones ended. She wanted to take a little time off after 12 years. It was a brutal schedule, and she had 2 little boys. She, gave birth twice throughout the show's run. So, but she's back working now. And most of them are. I don't know if TJ's doing anything, but most everybody else is working. Michaela I just saw her. She's just taken a continuing part in some show.
Wow.
So the main point of the Bone Code has to do with human genomics. I read an article about a Chinese scientist who, against all ethical agreements, altered the genome of 2 unborn babies. And the whole scientific community was appalled by that. So it made me think, well, what if someone did that? What if we can now alter the human genome? What if someone did that? And so that's kind of the main premise in the book is we learn about the human genome and genetics. We learn about vaccine production. We learn a little bit about an infectious disease flare-up. It's not a pandemic.
Yes.
And the funny thing about this is I started this book over 2 years ago because it takes a year to write it and another year in production. So when I wrote this book, COVID had never been imagined. And then when it came out, it was released right into the teeth of COVID. So I think a lot of writers are having to decide, well, what do we do about that? Do we recognize COVID? Do we write in a post-COVID world, or do we just ignore it? So I went back and I put gave lip service to it, and so it's mentioned, but it doesn't figure prominently.
You open a lot of possibilities.
Yes, if people
Are you
start
there?
Yes.
designer babies, where could it end? What interests me is when we have evolved, science has evolved technologies in advance of legislation to control them. So who regulates that? Right now, there's really anybody could do it. So.
Well, I guess my other question to you is, how did you come up with the original idea?
For the Temperance Brennan series?
Yes.
Well,
I made full professor at the university, so I was free to do something else, something non-scientific, if you will, something that would be more amusing than another scientific paper or book. And I also had just worked on, back in the mid-'90s, a serial murder case in Montreal. So I had the freedom to do something new, fiction, and I had this very interesting case. So I said, why not? I'm going to try writing fiction, and that's what I did. And I based it on myself, of course, because I just felt back in the mid-'90s that people were developing this interest in forensic science. Before that, nobody ever heard of us. We worked in our labs, and then all of a sudden, somewhere in the 90s, forensics became very sexy. So it just made sense to me to base the character on me and have her be a forensic scientist. And nobody was doing anthropology. I think back then no one had ever heard of forensic anthropology.
But I guess my other question to you is, how did you feel when you saw that the television series, she had kind of taken your character and moved it in a somewhat different direction? How did that, did you fight it, or did...
No, I had input. I didn't have control once you option your character, but they genuinely wanted my input. So I was involved in the project from the very beginning, from the hiring of the actors to the writing of the pilot to the, I was there for the whole shoot of the pilot. So it was not a surprise to me. I was very involved. I wrote 5, I think, episodes of the show over the course of 246 episodes. So I was good with it being different. I had certain things I held the line on, like you're not going to turn her into a 22-year-old psychic or something. But I was okay with her being in Washington, D.C. That's actually where I started in forensics at American University and working at the Smithsonian. So I was good with that.
Well, the first 2 years of the television show were much different than the later years. I don't know which of we loved the original concept, and how it grew, et cetera. But but in the 20 years that you've done, the 20 books you've done, that's also changed. And I think the character is much more fully developed in your... I haven't read your latest book, but in the later books, and I'm just wondering, do you see it? Do you still have the ability, you think, to deepen her even further?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I have. Right now, I'm about a little more than halfway done with with book number 21, and that's when I start to think about the next book, 22. So, and I have so many ideas that I could pursue. I keep a future stories file, and I actually clip articles and print things off the internet and put them in there. And so I do have some ideas already for even the next book. So I don't think I'll run out of ideas. And I do think I can keep the characters evolving and changing and growing, hopefully. Because your readers, like your viewers, have to be invested in the characters. They have to be able to, care about the characters.
Hmm.
You there? I had an incoming call. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Still
You're
there?
good. You're good.
No,
Okay.
no. Well, Jiggy, why don't you take over for? I've been hogging the questions. I'm sure you have one.
Oh yeah,
I just
yeah.
go on and on.
We've got a great guest with us today. Cathy Rex joins us here in our broadcast. The 20th novel in the best-selling Temperance Brennan series, The Bone Code, and she joins us today here on our big program. And we've got Don Mazzella and IQ Alrizzoli with us as well. IQ, do you have any questions for Cathy while we have her here?
Well, first, congratulations. Anybody who can produce 20 plus books and is successful is amazing. The question I would like to ask is, thank you. The question I want to ask, in every case, you have to study anthropology or know about anthropology, about the subjects that you're using. Do you have to study them?
I do, and I'm very active in my field. I'm not doing a lot of casework anymore, but I attend our annual meeting of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences every year. Well, not this year, but every year. And I read our journals, the Journal of Forensic Science, and I talk to colleagues all the time that are in different areas, and that's really helpful to me. If I need help on, DNA, or I need help on freezing of blood, how do you tell blood's been frozen and thawed, or whatever, I have a colleague that can, I can pick up the phone or walk down the hall and talk to them. So I'm not only, in answering your question, I'm not only constantly staying current and accurate with developments in anthropology, but also with the other related forensic sciences as well.
And in 20 years, how far do you think forensic science has advanced?
Well, of course, the big gorilla is DNA. We didn't have DNA. Well, it was just beginning to rear its head, I guess. But that is certainly the big development, and you could see it in our lab as the space they took over became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger for the DNA section. Anthropology is not all that high tech. We use calipers for measuring. We use bone saws for cutting. We use x-rays. But if I need anything more complicated, such as a scanning electron microscope or gas chromatography or whatever, I just go over to a colleague in a different department in toxicology or chemistry or something.
Fantastic. Honestly, congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
So, Cathy, this book, I'm sure was much like all the other books. Did your writing process differ from the first book to the 20th book?
Well, I hope it's gotten better. Book number 21 that I'm writing currently is going to go back to a number of Cathys' earlier cases. So I'm having to do a lot of going back and checking earlier books. And sometimes I look at like Deja Dead and I think, oh my goodness, did I really use that many metaphors and similes? So I think I've cut down on that. I hope my writing has become more concise and more descriptive and just less of that, she was big as a house kind of thing. I don't think I ever used that one, but
Cathy Rex with us today here on our broadcast, and this book, incredibly well written. What do you want folks to take away from your writing of this book?
Well, I hope they like the story. I hope they find a surprise at the end, that they think they figured it out and they haven't, and that they get a good laugh about that. I hope they learn a little about human genetics and the genome and how you can alter the genome and what you should alter the genome for and what it should not be altered for. We don't want, making designer babies, for example. There's also surprisingly timely because there was no COVID but there's quite a bit in there about vaccine production and mRNA vaccine production. And so I hope they learn a little something also.
Question, please. What do you think about the idea whether the COVID came from a lab or not? In your opinion,
I think Yeah, I can't have one yet because we need to see a lot more. I think it's a possibility, but I don't think there's any proof of that. I think we need to see a lot more evidence, and hopefully the Chinese will be forthcoming with that.
Fantastic. So Dawn, do you have any questions for Cathy?
Well, I guess I have the. I guess I'll ask her the question. Do you think it's do you think is originated in a Chinese lab or not?
Yeah.
Well, I just don't have enough evidence to decide. As I said, I think, it's a possibility. It's certainly suspicious that lab is right there and that they are doing experimentation with pathogens, but I don't think there's any proof of that whatsoever. But I am certain if that happened, it was an accidental leak.
Yeah.
But I think we need a lot more information.
Well, that's true. The Chinese just don't seem to want to give us it. But let's get off that topic, and I ask the other more important one. The character of Seeley in the on the show is I think much more drawn than in the books, in my view. What's your view? I guess what was your original thought about him? And
well, what we wanted to do with Seeley Booth and Temperance Brennan in the TV show and what we did, is kind of a switching of traditional gender roles. Tempe, the woman, is the one that's all about logic and science and hypothesis formation, traditionally more male characteristics, and Seeley Booth is all about emotions and gut instinct, and he's religious, which tend to be associated more with females. So we thought it would be fun to flip those, and that it would lend itself, and it certainly did, to comic situations, comic dialogue between the two of them.
How many of the characters in the television show do you? I try to relate the show to the books, and maybe I shouldn't, but it seems I love your characters in the book. I haven't read all 20. I've read enough of them. I feel much more attached to your book characters than the television character. They're different. I guess my question is, how much do you think are in one versus the other?
Well, you can go a lot deeper into character development when you're writing a book that's 350 to 400 pages. I was surprised. The first script I got for the show was like 60 pages. So when you write TV, teleplays, scripts for TV, it's all about dialogue, and it's all about maybe a little action. You don't have to put any descriptive in there. You don't write what's going on in your character's head. Now, a good actor or actress will portray that, of course, but so you really can go into more depth with your characters on the printed page rather than on the small screen.
Fantastic.
Well, that's true. So you're really depending on the actors, but I think your writing does a much more impressive job of making me feel the characters more. But
well, thank you.
That's just
yeah. Thank you.
I'm a very visual person, but my wife, who's read more of your books than I have, she liked the TV show, but she loves your books.
Well, she's a woman of excellent taste.
Well, except when it comes to marrying me.
That's awesome.
But anyway, well, that brings up another point. which is I don't know necessarily see as much comedy in your books as I do in the series. Is that deliberate or is simply a matter of the two genres?
Well, I try to put humor in the book, and that's tough, both in the show and the books, because every episode or every book deals with violent death. So how do you put humor in those situations at crime labs or an autopsy or whatever without being offensive? So it's a real balancing act. You have to walk that tightrope. But I do try to put, and I think Temperance Brennan in my books has a very good sense of humor, especially about herself. My friends tell me that she and I have the same sense of humor. She's very sarcastic.
That's awesome.
I've seen autopsies, and my first one I upchucked, and
that happens. I've seen cops.
That happens.
Well, it is an experience that people, a lot of people find difficult.
Well, it is difficult.
But
yeah, and that's what appeals to the forensic science end of the books is most people don't have to experience any of that. They don't go to a crime scene. They don't go to a forensic lab or autopsy, and yet they can vicariously experience that through reading.
That's true, and I think you do a very vivid job. But
Thank you.
Having been exposed to it, it's something, in my own view, I never get used to. And I'm always amazed that people can get used to it and do the jobs that they do. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, it's not for everyone. And, if you can't deal with the maggots and the smell and there's not that much blood, but, the sight of dead, then it's not the field for you. You need to find a different line of work.
I used to watch crime scene investigations. They were really amazing. I enjoyed every one of them, whether it was in Florida or New York or Los Angeles. Very interesting.
Very good. Are they still on? I don't even know.
I leave it up to. I have more questions, but I don't want to.
No, go ahead, Don. If you've got them, go, my friend. Go.
Well, you know me on that. but talking about the business of writing, which another question came up in our writers group recently. Are you now still personal, or have you created a company to handle your copyrights?
Oh, wow. I guess that's handled all through my publisher. I'm with one of the major, Scribner, which is a major publisher, so they handle all that. I do have a corporation to handle Temperance Brennan, Inc. or LLP or whatever it is, to handle the financial end of it. But copyright is, they do that. It's in the frontispiece of every book is the copyright.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. But I was thinking more about handling the royalties. It came up recently that they're now some people have created corporations to handle the royalties and the rights, etc. Because in the long run, it works better. I'm just curious. It's okay when you're talking about one or two books, but in your case, a whole genre.
Yeah.
We were just I was just wondering.
I do have a corporation for that end of it, and then I do have an agent who handles. I was forever with William Morris Endeavor, which is a huge agency that covers literature and entertainment rights. I left them a few years ago. So I now have no agent for my books, but I have an agent for my foreign rights, and I have an agent for for theatrical rights if I, negotiate some TV thing I'm doing. So, yeah, it's complicated. It is complicated, but, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes. I don't want to get into too detail. I'm just very curious. It's a nice problem to have, and it's interesting. You're taking over your own rights. I find that interesting.
Right.
And probably in the long run, it's better. If your son's a lawyer, it also helps. If I heard correctly earlier.
Yeah, instead of having agents handle my deals, I have attorneys handle my deals. You have to have someone because it's so complicated that.
Amen.
Amen. Well, today is my grandson's 11th birthday. So I'm quite agitated to get myself down to the birthday party.
Okay, well, we will. We appreciate you taking as much time as you have with us today. This has been really fun and really informative. And where can we go to get the book and get involved with everything you're doing, my friend?
Well, I have a Twitter account. Cathy Rex on Twitter.
Yep.
And I have a Facebook, which is cathyrex.com, I guess. And then I have Instagram and Facebook. So any of those, and all of those have links to where you can buy the books.
Fantastic.
If you just Google Cathy Rex, all this stuff will pop up.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you taking as much time as you did today, my friend. Thanks for doing this, and we will talk to you soon. Good luck with the book.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye.
There she goes, Cathy Rex. And as we've got a segment now where it's just going to be Dawn and IQ, and so IQ, I want to get your thoughts on this